Addy soldiers. I told myself I didn't need another coffee before I started filming, but that may be incorrect. I'm almost 30 and my body is falling apart. Like, why am I so tired? All I've been doing this week is painting my entire apartment and putting up wallpaper and having 2 4-hour long phone calls with my girlfriend and having 2 dance classes a week and rhinestoning an entire dance outfit in a single night and walking around downtown for 8 straight hours yesterday. It's been a busy couple weeks, folks. I'm sorry I didn't put out a video yet last week, but I was also covered in paint for 3 straight days. Oh, and I know I usually have a sword that holds my microphone, but this week it felt more thematic to have a scythe because the shirt that I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see the embroidery, but it's a little cat holding a scythe. It's part of the new Death Trap collection from Way She Goes Clothes. It's cool or whatever. And yet, even though it's felt like 4 whole years have gone by for a single month of January 2025, I somehow managed to read 8 books in that time. December 2024, I was feeling real burned out on reading. I'm looking at these things like, do I even like books anymore? But thankfully, the stuff that I read in January has restored my faith because I'm reading these books being like, God, I love words. So without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in. Join me as we go over the merry, the monstrous, and the macabre books that I managed to read in January 2025. But before we get started, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Louisa Jewelry. Louisa offer a high-quality, tarnish-proof, water-resistant, elegant, everyday basic jewelry pieces with a twist. And as Valentine's Day fast approaches, I'm sure we're all looking for something special to spice up that day, whether it be a little extra sparkle for yourself, or maybe you want to get the perfect gift for your partner or for one of your friends or for someone in your family just to show that you appreciate and love them. And Louisa is the perfect place to get a little something special for the person that you love. And so they have also sent me some things to show off today. And one of them, surprise, surprise, is something I've been wearing this whole time. These are the Sage drop earrings in the color silver. These are a sleek double ring drop hoop that are dipped in rhodium for an incredible shine and have a hypoallergenic titanium post. I personally like a bit of a longer earring or a more oblong hoop for my face shape, and these are just the perfect understated but still interesting silver accessory. But let's say you're looking for something a little bit more girly, something a little bit less everyday basic, and something more femininomenon coded. In that case, I think you would absolutely adore the Esther drop hoop earrings, also in silver. These are designed in collaboration with influencer Esther Is and feature an asymmetric bow and heart hoop dangle that you can mix and match the charms to your heart's desire. And they are also tarnish proof with a rhodium dip and a freshwater pearl. I think these are so sweet and delightful and perfect to add to any earring stack, especially if you have like more holes in your ears than I do. I've been working with Louisa for a couple of years now, and I truly do wear them every single day. I have this ring on, which I think is one of the braided rope rings that I have on constantly. I have their huggy hoops on. It's just my normal everyday like grab and go earring. When I'm not in book sweaters, I do tend to dress pretty business casual, and they are that perfect elevated basic that is fantastic quality that I've had some for years that look exactly the same as the day that I took them out of the pouch. So if you would like to grab some affordable, long-lasting, beautiful jewelry, you can head to the link in my description because Ana Luisa is currently having a big sale right now, up to 20% off, and the more that you shop, the more that you save. So, you know, get something for you and your friend and your partner and the people in your family, and then another something for you. Thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let us get into the books of January. Second coffee acquired. Oh yeah, that's the good shit. Oh yeah, I also had 2 photo shoots this week and am also working full-time at my day job, like usual, like a normal person does. So I can't believe I forgot that. Damn, I am doing a lot. I have no particular order in which I have these laid out, so I'm just gonna pick one up and talk about it, and we'll let the fates decide, right? Life's all about surprises. If you watched one of my videos from last year where I talked about my bookish goals for 2025, may I just say that I am doing a fantastic job of sticking to that list so far this year, because not only did I read multiple new to me authors, but I also read a bunch of books off of my backlist TBR pile, and I read not 1, not 2, but 3 entire sequels. Applause, applause. Oh my god, thank you. No, stop, please. So first up is from the backlist TBR. This is a book that I was sent by Tor last spring, a Slavic folklore fantasy that is The Witcher meets Naomi Novik, and that was Foul Days by Genevieve Domova. In the first 2 weeks of every year, the city of Chernograd is descended on by monsters, and none more scary or monstrous than the Tsar of Monsters himself. Our main character, Kosara, is a young witch who was once under the thrall of the Tsar of Monsters, but managed to escape him, and is the first year that he's going to try and call her back. In trying to escape, she is betrayed by someone close to her, and her shadow gets gambled away, way. In danger and with no magic, she has to team up with the suspiciously honorable constable in order to get her shadow back, regain her magic, and stop the foul days themselves. It's full of magic, mayhem, and monsters. I really liked Kusara as our main character. Being morally right is not her job. She's here doing her own thing and trying to escape this damn constable who keeps meddling in her shadow business and would rather fight a pack of Caraconjuls than go to a street party. Like, very relatable. What a queen. In the threat of said constable, Azan, I believe, I liked him, but I do wish that he had a little bit stronger of a character. This started off as like a Witcher monster compendium heist novel, and then slowly morphed into a allegory for escaping toxic relationships and domestic violence and like unhealthy ways to cope with grief. And I know we're not supposed to like the Tsar of Monsters, but I'm just saying his interior decoration of decorating with bones and melted bones and stacked bones and bone chandeliers really does appeal to me. It was fast, it was engrossing, it was horrid in a fun way, and I really loved the monsters and the folklore that we see in this. However, was a little heavy-handed on the like, where is the line between human and monster? This is going to be a duology, and I don't know if I like feel called to read the sequel. That being said, if you want a new fantasy book that is not based on romance and instead focuses more on grief and growth, I would recommend this to you. Sorry about the light in here. It's been snowing on and off all day. Next up is a fun little Christmas rom-com that really did defy my expectations when it comes to like the Christmas of it all. I planned to read this in December, but then that didn't happen, so I decided to read it in January because I didn't want to have to wait for a whole year for Christmas to grab me back in its capitalist grip. And to my great surprise and delight, this is the least Christmassy and least romantic Christmas rom-com that I've ever read, but like in the best way possible, like brackets complimentary. And that is the queer holiday house swap rom-com that was I'll Be Gone for Christmas by Georgia K. Boone. Our main characters, Bee and Clover, are two burned out women who decide to swap houses over the holidays through this house swap app that's kind of like Airbnb. And as the two of them fall into the roles of the other person's life, they both start to question, their own lives and what they really want and where they really belong. Bee is in the tech industry of San Francisco, but as she goes to a small town in Ohio, she finds herself unraveling her anxieties about her family and spending more and more time with Clover's ex-fiance Knox. Whereas Clover lives on a farm in Ohio and has recently dealt with the death of her mother and the breaking off of her engagement. So she goes to San Francisco, finds a queer community, and starts falling in love with Bee's sister. I love this book right off the bat. It is so charming, very compelling characters, really relatable struggles about like burnout and grief and struggling with your sexuality. The banter between Knox and Bee is so spot on. I absolutely love an equestrian man. Fun fact, there was a single boy in the stable that I grew up learning to ride in, and I had the hugest crush on him. But he moved away in my late teens, and now I'm dating another horse girl, so life works in mysterious ways. And then Clover finding the friends that she needs in the queer community and kind of like falling into a friend group. And I love the friend group. They are hilarious. It happened over Christmas, but it wasn't like in your face Hallmark Christmassy. Christmas was kind of like on a back burner. And despite both of them having a love story, it also wasn't as romantic as I was expecting. It was much more about personal development and connection and kind of learning like, what is your best? And like, are you enough just by doing your best? And those kind of burned out millennial questions. On the DL, I would have liked a little bit more romance, like romance. But at the same time, I absolutely adored this. And now let's talk about the first of the 3 sequels that I read this month. And like, that may not seem like something to you, but if you've been around here for a little while, last year I read 6 sequels. The entire year. And the fact that I've read 3 in a single month, this is unheard of. She's got it going on. And that is A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne. A fun, cozy sapphic story that I really enjoyed, but the sequel definitely took me a couple of tries to get into. But once we passed the first 50 pages, baby, I was ready to set sail. I had lifted the anchor. I was on board. Keith and Rena are back at it again, and this time in their adventures, they are trying to bring a notorious river pirate to justice. But as a constable from the local river lord's forces joins them, they find out that this constable Bobby and the pirate Serena have a troubled history. But as they watch this relationship wreck from afar, they're starting to realize that Serena and Bobby may know more than they're letting on, and their search for dragon eggs may bring them a little closer to home. Definitely more dynamic than the first one, full of action sequences. It's very like Princess Bride meets Pirates of the Caribbean, but more fun and with more disaster lesbians. Bobby and Serena's friends to enemies to lovers question mark side plot was very fun to follow along with. And I love that Bobby's hobby in times of stress is to crochet. So she just has all these little like lumpy, lopsided crochet animals around her at all times. And there's like this running gag with Kian's hat, and it's very funny and wholesome. And the dastardly pirate dregs is my favorite new character. I hope that they are in the next book because they went and stole my heart. Are you kidding me? They have a library on a pirate ship. Like, oh my god, that is my dream. This also gives me something that I said that I wanted more of in last week's video, 2 weeks ago video. Oh no, what is time? I want more books with established couples. Reina and Kianth, who at this point have been together for a couple of years, we see them still growing together and kind of learning more about each other's pasts and working through their complicated feelings as a couple. I can tell this one is a sequel or like a continuation a little bit because it is a bit more chaotic than the first one. It does kind of feel like a continuation of a D&D campaign where the DM thought they had wrapped stuff up but then needed new ideas when people wanted to keep going. So the dragon plot line felt a little here and there, but the ending was very good, had a lot of good side characters, a lot of fantastic relationship dynamics, and just continued to be a fun, cozy adventure novel full of fantastic sapphic couples and fun magical pets and tea and bad puns. Oh, and also this was sent to me by Tor Bramble. Thank you, Tor Bramble. Speaking of sapphics, we are now going to move on to the weirdest book on this list, which is saying a lot considering that books that I will be talking about shortly have forests made of skeletons and cat spirits with human teeth and firebirds of legend that breathe shadow. The Shape of Water meets Mexican Gothic in this new sapphic monster romance novella that is But Not Too Bold by Hache Puello. I got an advance copy of this from Tor.com. This comes out in February, and if you are a monster fucker or a Crowley, you're gonna love this book. In a large mansion in the countryside, the lady of Capricious House is named Anathema, and she is a creature of old who is a monstrous humanoid spider lady with a taste for laudanum and human brides. Our main character Dahlia is the new keeper of the keys when the old keeper gets eaten, and she's trying to unravel the crimes, pun intended, that led to her predecessor's death, and yet at the same time, maybe falling in love with the very monster that killed her. Archaic monsters of old deserve love too, and that's a hill I'll die on. First of all, Spider Lady, love her. She's super creepy. She is uncanny. She's described as blinking from her lower lid upwards, and how she has a face, but it's a false face. The skin unglued from her face like the flowers of a petal, revealing complex sequences of fangs, teeth, pincers, and turquoise tongue so long that she could wrap it around Dahlia's neck to bring her closer. What? So Lady Anathema is 10 out of 10, but I felt like reading along from Dahlia's perspective, like Dahlia is just so boring. And like, I get it. The whole point of working in Capricious House is that like you're there from the time that you were born. So like Dahlia's whole personality is only work. But I'm like, girl, you don't even have a favorite color. It just wasn't fun to follow along with her when it was just like head empty, no thoughts, only work. Like no cookies in this data cache. But I'm so frustrated because I don't know when or where this takes place. Like, oh, there's no identifying features of where physically we are in the world, and they have cars and phones, but then they only use typewriters to communicate. And like when they go into town, the people of the town know about all these like archaic creatures of old, including this one like worm that carves mountains but like spits lightning. And I'm just like, what is where, when, how? And these are questions that I know I'm never going to get answered. The funniest thought I had about this is that the home gets a lot of its revenue through poppies because it's in this big poppy field. So they are exporting like opium and laudanum and stuff. And I love the idea that everybody in here is just high as balls and everything of the story is just one giant fever dream. So all in all, mid. I didn't really like this. I wish there was more of it. I wish I liked it more. I wish there was more of it to like. It wasn't freaky enough. Like if you're gonna let the freak flag fly, you need to do the groundwork. And I just felt like this kind of missed the mark. So we're halfway through. It started snowing again and got really dark. So now my apartment is a literal cave. But actually, this kind of thematically works for the next book I'm going to talk about, so it was totally on purpose, and all this was predestined. This next book is one of those stories that takes place in a forest dark and deep. However, it is also the first of 3 fairy books that I want to talk about from this month. This first one is one that I am honestly very mad at myself about, because if I had actually read this in the year that it came out, aka 2024, this would have been one of my top 10 books, maybe even top 5 books of the year, because it is the most perfect, beautiful little swirled ice cream cone of gorgeous writing and macabre twisted nature magic that speaks to that little rotted part of my soul. That is the romantic, fantastic, Polish folklore-inspired YA fantasy novel that is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. Desperate to be free of a dangerous magic that is arising inside of her, our main character Liska escapes her village and goes into the magical forest on the edge of town in hopes of finding this one flower that is said to grant a wish, but instead she runs into the Warden of the Woods, who says that he will help cure her magic if she stays with him for a year and a day. And when she gets back to the Leshy's crumbling mansion, she finds out that she is not the first person that he has struck this bargain with, and she's unraveling the literal ghosts of his past as something darker and deeper is stirring within the forest. It's a little Beauty and the Beast, it's a little For the Wolf, it's about religious guilt and the morality of magic while also having the most beautiful writing that I've read in a YA book in a long time. Guilt cuts through her, a blade in her chest, agonizing and defiling. It is not a swift injury, no, it is slow and meticulous. The blade descends inch by inch, flaying her open, exposing her lungs and her heart and the glint of her rib cage, displaying all the ugliness she has been hiding away. She set out to sow death, and death is what she grew. Now she reaps the consequences. Girl, what? Oh my god, that is beautiful, but also gross. There are beautiful bisexual men with antlers. There are trees with eyes. There are sentient houses. There are magical libraries that exist outside of space and time that have moss and trees in them. We have butterfly-shaped magic. There are rotting deer demons and cat spirits with human teeth. That's right, cat spirits with human teeth. I like this book a lot. I love the Leshy. He's such a sympathetic, beautiful character. And like, we love a pathetic and self-aware man in this household. And I really like Liska as our main character because she does have a self-preservation instinct, believe it or not. Because she has magic, she's willing to believe a little bit more. But I love that she also demands answers for stuff. Like at one point, the Leshy is like bleeding sap and has like a tree branch coming out of him, and he's like, don't worry about it. And she's just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna need an answer for this. I do wish this had taken a little bit longer timeline wise. I felt like a lot of stuff happened pretty fast, and it did have some pretty on the nose themes, but it's also a YA novel, so like, I'll give it to her. This was a delight to read. It is so lovely and so haunting, and I like can't say better things about it. Now, when I say Where the Dark Stands Still had romance, I meant it. It was beautiful, it was sweeping, it was like heartfelt and beautiful. And then when I say romance for this next one, I mean like the characters are banging. We are going from sharing a kiss in an enchanted grove to literally getting it on in the middle of a fairy court. Saddle up, Buttercup. We are getting spicy up in here because I got my hands on a physical copy of The Fae Queen's Captive by Sierra Simone. And if you know, you know. I read a digital copy of this on Kindle like 2 years ago, maybe. And I realized the other day, like, oh yeah, I can just like order stuff to get printed and then have it shipped to my house. I kind of forgot you could do that. A super sexy, sapphic, fae romantasy novella. This centers Jan, who is an archaeological student on a dig, who gets herself accidentally kidnapped by the fairies on Samhain and taken away to the Court of Antlers, where she both falls in love with the queen, but also finds herself in the middle of like some political intrigue and also gets railed a whole lot in a fairy court. I'm not a traditional monster romance girly, but there is just something about somebody with a pair of antlers. And I will not be taking questions at this time. I'm just saying, I maybe would like to be stuck in the hot fairy lady's mushroom castle. So yes, this was a reread. I did enjoy myself, but to be completely honest, not a lot of my thoughts have changed. And obviously the story hasn't changed, so I'm going to let past Rachel tell you all about it. This fairy realm is way too cool to be used as a standalone smutty novella world. Like, no. Ma'am, I need you to write an entire fantasy series on this because the Fae Court is in this magical castle that has rooms that appear and disappear, and everything's lit by these iridescent glowing mushrooms. And this court is the court of stags. And you know me, I love bones and I love antlers, and there's a full antler throne, and the queen has this antler crown. Salt is a big thing too, because humans have salt in their blood, and that's what makes them human. So the main character has to keep imbibing salt to make sure that she doesn't fall under the fairy glamour. And there's also all this tension in the court because the queen is now only queen because her mother just got assassinated and her older brother wanted the throne. So there's like this sibling tension and rivalry. And then also those twins are the Night Glass twins, and they have pieces of their body that are see-through. So like you can see the queen's lungs through her back. And then there's this whole other subplot of like tithing and sacrifice and how the fairies have to tithe in blood and magic magic to like make sure that the magic of their world stays intact. Literally most of this book was me being like, oh my god, can you freaking have sex already? Hurry it up. Like I want to go see what's happening in that weird room with like the magic trails that lead to it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sierra, I am begging you to make this a full fantasy series because you have so much in here of the backstory and the politics and the fairy courts, and it's so cool because, to quote L.R. Lamb, no foreplay without lore play. I absolutely adore this world and I wish we had more of it. It is very funny that even though Janice is like, oh my god, sexy lady, and also like, ooh, magic, at the very beginning she's like, oh god, this fairy abduction experience is not shaping up like I was expecting it to. Very relatable. I'm definitely the person in the forest with the pots and pans being like, oh no, I sure hope no sexy fairy lord or lady takes me away to their world and like romances me. Because I'm over here in my hubris being like, I know to answer questions with questions and not eat the fairy fruit. And yet at the same time, I know that I would absolutely just get demolished by like the first fairy beast that I saw. So a girl can dream, and maybe that dream involves some hot ladies with horns. I don't know. And third and final of my 3 fairy novels is a beautiful finale to a gorgeous fae folklore fantasy saga that is 50% drama and 50% trauma. This saga is full of tens across the board, and this one was no different. I finished An Honored Vow by Melissa Blair. One of the best fae fantasy series I've ever read that centers a half-elf assassin who is trying to regain rights for her people and unearth their shared history. It focuses on generational trauma and colonialism and reconciliation, survivor's guilt, addiction, PTSD, but also found family and strength and magic and love. And such a beautiful, beautiful finale. This feels weighted in a way that a lot of other battle fantasy ends of stories don't. We are upping the ante in this final book. Like, oh, not only do we get like relationship betrayal and uncontrollable magic and these fiery death birds that can breathe shadow magic, but we also get to feel the extreme guilt and shame and responsibility of being the savior of your people and having to pass on trauma to future generations. And yet again, Damien is the fucking worst. Oh, truly one of the best, most awful villains that I've read in a long time. I really loved we got to spend more time with our side characters, particularly Gerarda and Gwyn. I think their storylines really shone in this book. That being said, this was actually one of my least favorite of the series, despite it being so good, because just the whole series is so good. The writing was a little choppier in this one, like chapters ended in places, and I felt a couple of the side characters didn't really get as fleshed out as I had hoped. While the ending was very satisfying, it kind of felt a little bit like the Battle of Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings. I did feel like it lacked a little bit, and maybe this is just me and my jaded ass having read all of these awful battle-weary fantasy novels, but I'm like, I don't think enough people died, which I know is horrible because so many people die in this series, and there are multiple funerals in this book that I sobbed my eyes out over. I'm just like, oh, that's not really that realistic. I say as like shadow-breathing firebirds are circling overhead, but honestly at this point, Kira can do literally whatever she wants. She can go fuck off into the mountains and garden for the rest of her life. She deserves it. She deserves to rest. God, this series was so beautiful. It was so impactful. It went into so many deep, important topics on addiction and sacrifice and blame and history and magic in just a way that I've never seen anywhere else. So if you have not picked this up for whatever reason, you absolutely have to. It is 1000% worth it. And last, but certainly not least, is the final sequel of this video. Even though it's been a little while since I have graced the hallowed halls of TikTok.edu, I am a person of the internet. Have you guys heard of this thing called the internet? The internet bullied me into reading one of my now favorite books, which is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And I'm very happy to say that sometimes peer pressure does in fact work, because I read the best sequel that I've read in a long ass time, Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, the sequel of One Dark Window and second of the Shepherd King duology. A gothic dark fantasy full of cursed misty forests, cool tarot card magic, and beautiful men who are trying to overthrow the kingdom. What more could you want? In One Dark Window, we follow Elspeth and the nightmare in her head as the two of them fall into a political coup and also are trying to stop magic from encroaching upon the town of Blunder. And in the sequel, we mostly follow Raven and Elm, although we do see from Elspeth a bit as they all have to confront the actions of their previous book and try and save the kingdom from full, like, magical political upheaval. Something this book has that not a lot of books these days do is that it has like a little recap at the beginning. Do you remember how like every YA book sequel in the 2010s had a like, here's what you missed on Glee, like recap of like, I've been on the run for a month and this is why at the beginning of every book? Thank you, Rachel Gillig, because me and my shitty memory really needed that. Like, I completely forgot how unsettling this rhyming card magic is, and I love it. More things that I loved about this: Elm. He was fantastic in the first book, and he's even better in the sequel. I love how deeply flawed he is, and I love that we really get to see him vulnerable, but also take back his own power. Learning the history of the curse and the Shepherd King in general was so sick, but I do feel a little crazy trying to explain it because I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I was just like, the cards and the forest, the mist, trees. We especially love a misty dark forest where the trees move and the mist whispered and there are bone valleys. Once again, the writing is impeccable. It has like these little like twists of phrase that just keep pleasantly surprising me. The music tangled in tapestries, pirouetting around pillars and knotting itself in skirts. There were not enough pages in all the books Elm had read, in all the libraries he'd wandered, in all the notebooks he'd scrawled that can measure, denote, or describe just how beautiful she was. With the nightmare's fingers pressed into his throat, Raven was beginning to understand. They may look like fingers, but under the surface, there was something distinctly jagged. Ooh, creepy. Every character in here is so burdened by rage and pain and grief that seeing those flashes of humanity break through the numbness or the anger makes everyone so much more interesting, even if they are the most monstrous. But the best part of this whole thing is that everybody in here is just so fucking done with magic. It's really funny for them to be going through this dark forest and like the mist is whispering to them like, magic comes at a cost, you'll have to pay. And they're just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up. The final installment of the story of the girl, the king, and the monster they became was an absolute delight. Guys, I get it. I get it now why you read sequels. This was amazing. And that's that on that. God, oh my god. I can't believe you just let me shotgun coffee like that. That was a bad idea on your end. There are the 8 books that I read in the first month of 2025, which sounds so weird to say out loud, but like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling engaged. I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling ready to read. And may I say, this momentum has followed me into February because I've already finished a book and it's only like 2 days into the month as I film this. Once again, thank you very much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. A reminder that I'm wearing these sage hoops. If you're looking for a little extra sparkle and shine for yourself or someone that you love this Valentine's Day, make sure to check out the link in my description. That will bring you to Ana Luisa's site where you can shop to your heart's content. I've had these for 3 days and I've already worn them 3 days in a row. I really do feel like these are going to be a new staple for me. Please leave down below what you read in January. Did you start off the year with a bang? Did you read some of the ones that I read and want to talk about them? Was there like a major disappointment that was on your list? Let me know. I want to know. What am I going to do with the rest of my evening? It's not even that late, but it feels like it's midnight with just how dark in here. I need to get some overhead lighting. I know that's part of my home renovations. Well, I'll probably make myself some girl dinner because it's been a little too long since I last grocery shopped. And then maybe I'll like take a bath or something tonight. I got like 7 bags of Epsom salts for Christmas, and so I gotta start going through those. You know where to click like the video. You know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day or night wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!